Welcome back to One Season Wonder, the podcast where we dig into TV shows that never made it past their first season, but definitely made a lasting impression. We're still flying through Firefly, and today we're talking about the episode The Message. It's the one with the body in the box and enough emotional weight to flatten a mule. I'm Talon.
I'm Jamison.
I'm Christopher.
Before we jump in, we've got a quick housekeeping note, though. From here on out, we're switching our episode release dates to Thursdays instead of our usual Monday.
That's when the microphone comes.
Yeah, it just works better for me with editing and just work and life and whatever, so just make it easier. I also want to talk about listener comments, because we've gotten some great ones lately. Not the one from Christopher.
Daddy.
Daddy?
My daddy.
Oh, that was your dad?
Yes.
Your dad's name is Chris also?
Yes.
Who did you think it was from?
That was him.
No, it's my daddy.
Oh my god, I thought that's why when you were like, did
That's
you read who it's from?
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, if I would have responded, if I would have responded like angry, he would have been like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
He would have totally understood. That, yeah, they have the same name.
I had no
Same
idea.
name, yeah.
I thought
His name
it was
is
you.
Christopher. No.
Oh, okay.
Why would I troll my podcast? I'd be like, yo, that dude looks good on that thing. Tell me more, homie.
I just thought you were just making a joke yourself about how you are.
Oh, no. Absolutely not.
Okay. All right.
I would have wrote something about, he's right, kangaroos are bad.
It's the One Season Wonder podcast with Christopher, Jamison, and Talon. All right. Well, we have other comments from someone at Pet Projects 2011 or 2011, and they came in clutch with not one but two awesome tidbits. So the first one, remember that line that River made when she suddenly woke up from her "I'm dead" sleep in the Ariel episode, and we weren't sure what she was saying, copper or something. Wow.
Definitely remember.
Right.
So they said that River said "copper for a kiss," which is still, I don't know what that means, but it's very River. Anyway, and the other thing, so Pet Projects 2011 had a video chat with Summer Glau, who plays River. And
that must have been horrible.
You understand it's a character that she plays, right? I'm sure that's not how she's like in real
we've
life.
had this discussion.
Okay.
Her
You
brain
remember?
probably works normally. Like,
Look at the person talking about someone's brain.
No, yeah. I'm sure it was good.
So apparently the reason River is so often seen barefoot, because you made a comment about her being barefoot on the grate when she walked in the Bushwhacked episode.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why she's often barefoot isn't just a character choice. It was a practical one, because Summer has a lingering foot injury from her dancing days, and the combat boots they had her wearing were uncomfortable, so she asked if she could not wear them, and Joss Whedon let her. So he said yes, and so also it's River's way of being, she feels more grounded and calm with her feet bare against the earth.
And less protection and more pain on grade.
Right. But in real life, she has a dancing. In real life, though, she has a dancing injury with her foot, so the boots are making it hard for her to do stuff. So huge thanks to @Pet Projects 2011 for the insight. If anyone ever has any trivia, thoughts, or even corrections, we're always here for it. All right, let's get into the message, which is Jamison today.
all right. The opening scene, we're starting off with this like cool ass planet that's got all this shit on the outside, like TVs and stuff.
Yeah.
Very futuristic looking. And there's a bunch of people inside this one part of the ship that the crew ends up being at. There's a guy that is standing at like a front door. He kind of, I wrote down like a magician, but he's not a magician. But he's like
basically a caller.
yeah,
Showcase.
Like the guy.
yeah, he's like a show guy.
Yeah.
Right.
And I guess
He was very similar to the Jesus is here. Jesus
Right.
is near people in the streets, but he was talking
Oh,
about
I thought that's what it was going to be. And I was
Right.
like, oh, good.
But I think he was standing in front of like the room that ends up being like the next scene or whatever, where it's almost like a oddities museum, maybe,
like
more or less. Oh.
But it reminded me of like
oddity and
it reminded me of like if you go to a carnival, they have like the bearded lady.
That's very much like what I was saying, like a show guy. I feel like that's the best way to describe it. But anyways, he's standing there trying to like get people to come over and like check out this room. And then it cuts to Simon and Kaylee being what I would assume is this room that he was talking about. And they're looking at this weird creature.
It was a cow.
Yeah. It was
they're talking about like how aliens exist. Because I didn't realize until this point, like, there are no aliens at all in this show.
We discussed it, but in the first episode, I said there are no aliens in this movie whatsoever.
Oh, I remember that, and then I forgot as I watched the whole show.
Until right now.
But yeah, there's no aliens, which I said...
Yeah, no aliens.
I liked because it didn't have that. I liked that it was just all humans.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're looking at this cow fetus that is in this tube, and they're talking about the cow, but then Kaylee like makes all these comments that like she kind of typically does, and Simon starts to admire her and it says something about like, you know, she always finds like the good in everything or whatever. And yeah, it starts to be where they're flirting with each other, and Kaylee's like, oh, we're in here by ourselves, like what does that mean? Like, which I always think is kind of funny that she like jumps right to it, I feel like, for the most part.
Right.
Then it's going well, and then Simon fucks it up, per usual. Like, literally, it never fails.
We were watching it today, Weston was like, that's a dumb thing to say.
Right.
Like, what is he saying that for?
Yeah. No, he almost pretty much says, like, since there's nobody else.
Yeah. You're the only woman I can really be with.
Yeah. And she's like, well, fuck you.
Right. It was weird seeing him in a sweater.
Oh, yeah. He was in a sweater, which I guess he's typically in like a button-up, right?
He's almost always in a vest and a shirt, some button-up shirt always. Feels like.
Wash and Zoe walk in. Kaylee walks away because she's like, fuck you. And then...
Which I was also like, they did not have 5 minutes because they came in like...
right.
I was like, y'all would have gotten caught.
Right. So yeah, Wash and Zoe walk in. Wash makes kind of a funny joke that's kind of at Simon, but it like turns it into like him talking about the cow that they were looking at. And Zoe's like, damn, you fucked it up, didn't you? And, and they just kind of like pick fun of him.
It was funny because he said, well, I have a hard time talking to girls. And Zoe says...
Hard time talking to anybody.
Basically, like, who do you have an easy time talking to? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to Anara and Mal, like, walking into this common area, I guess, of this, like, planet or whatever that they're on. I guess it's not a planet. I don't know what it is. It's like a space station.
I think that's what it was.
PlayStation?
You wanted to say PlayStation.
It reminded me of Total Recall, where they're, like, on the moon or whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's been a long time since I've seen Total Recall. I mean, forever.
Great movie. Almost as good as Galaxy Quest. But it is a really good movie. And so, like, like the screens and, like, the neon stuff and everything, it's, like, all...
It reminded me, which Mom might know what I'm talking about, you won't, but it reminded me of BioShock, except for in outer space. Oh. But, like, the underwater cities were a lot like that, where they had all these, like, lights and neon lights and the TVs on, like, the outsides of the buildings. Kind of just gave me, like, that's where I first... But it's still very different, but that's kind of what made me think of it.
Probably like a space station kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a space station. So anyways, Anara and Mal are walking in. They're kind of talking about... I guess, like, Anara kind of maybe had a plan, and she was trying to convince Mal to do it, and he's like, well, just because you helped us one time doesn't mean, like... I don't want you to be a part of that all the time and like ruin your reputation and like the job you do. And of course she's like, oh, the job that you just think so highly of or whatever, you know?
About the gun thing. Like unload, because they couldn't find a buyer for the blaster or whatever.
Yeah, from the last episode, they can't find anybody to take it. And she's like, well, you know, it's kind of a hot. I mean, people probably know it's hot. So it's going to be hard to sell. And she has people that she has connections with that would buy it. And he's like, I don't want you to ruin your reputation and fuck up your job. And she's like, oh, yeah, you're still worried about my job.
Right.
This job you hate.
Well, there's all these parts about like these little like side love scenarios of like Simon and Kaylee, and then you got Mal and Anara. And I think it's building to what would be.
Eventually.
But I will say, one of the not fun facts.
Oh, okay. Good. Another not fun fact.
This one actually is not fun. The whole crew knew this episode would be, or the show was canceled.
At this point?
Yeah, when they filmed it. Like, they knew they weren't having the second season.
Damn.
So
This is the last episode. This is the fact that I found out today. This was the last episode that actually aired on Fox.
that is not what I saw.
Huh? What'd you see?
I saw that this episode also did not air on Fox because of the executives versus Joss Whedon for not making the series lighter in tone but more violent.
They wanted it more violent. They wanted it lighter.
They wanted it lighter.
I think it is pretty light. It's not light.
Well, I mean, for the time, think about it. I don't know.
I guess, but I mean, there's definitely.
Well, they threw someone into an air turbine.
I know, but it was lightly.
Okay. Just like you kicked him.
I
Right
mean, it was
there.
funny though. Like it wasn't like.
Funny to us.
Yeah.
The callous 2025 people.
I feel like it's a good mix of humor and violence,
Right.
along with other things in between.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like so overly heavy on violence. I feel like, oof, it's dragging me
I feel
down.
like stuff
I'm
is
so
a lot
bummed
more violent
now.
nowadays.
That's
Sure
what.
was.
Maybe they were. I mean, maybe it was. When was it? 2006, 7?
I can't remember.
Oh shit. Well, either way, a long time ago.
Right.
Much different thresholds of what's okay and what's light.
Right.
And what's because the shit you see today is
Yeah.
way worse.
Oh yeah.
No, maybe so. I don't know. I read it on IMDb.
Oh, okay.
So, and I copy and pasted it and wrote it out. So if I'm wrong, whoever wrote that, I'm calling them out. Because that's my fact source.
Anara and Mal are walking over to what is like a post office, I suppose,
Right.
and they're there to pick up some mail. And the
USPS or FedEx?
I think it's USPS.
It's probably the ASPS, Alliance Postal Service, probably APS.
APS. Sure. Anyways, they're going to pick up mail. Mal, signs for all the packages and whatever, and the dude pulls out like one really big box and then a little box. He says the big little box is for Jane. And Jane gets really excited. And I think it was Shepard that was like, shouldn't we all like maybe stand back for him to open this package? Jane like isn't really paying attention to anything else except for opening his own package. He's like, it's from my mother. And he opens it and there's a card with it. And this is the only time I could relate to Jane because he can't fucking read.
I was like, good God.
Yeah, and he's like trying so hard in like the background of everybody else doing the other stuff. He's like trying to read this letter from his mom, and I'm like, God, he's so dumb. But I'm like, relatable. As he's opening his whole gift, they're opening the bigger box. His gift ends up being like a hat that his mom made for him. That of course looks ridiculous on him, but he wears it anyways. And then they're opening their other box, and as soon as they get the lid off of it, they're like, ugh. Pretty sure that's a coffin, and then they open it, and lo and behold, it is, because there's a dead guy in there.
I did like that when he put the hat on, and Kaylee, of course, was like, "Oh, it's cute," and Wash said, "That's a man that something like everyone's going to know that he's not afraid of anything," which was funny.
Yeah,
if you're going to wear that, you're not afraid of anything.
Right. All right. So that's like the opening scenes, and then it does the intro or whatever. And then we come back, and it's like a war scene flashback, which is going to introduce us to who the guy is in the body, whose name is Tracy. He's an old war buddy of Zoe and Mal, so that's how they know him. It kind of goes on. It's just a scene of like something that they ran into, obviously, during the war. In this scene, Tracy stops in the middle of like the fight to stop and eat. Mm-hmm. And as he's like opening this can of beans that he's about to eat, you can see like in the background like a bad guy coming to. It's gonna probably kill him, right? And of course, Zoe, being who she is, like shows up out of nowhere, kills the guy, and protects
with a knife, not a gun.
Yeah. She was quiet, stealthy.
Yeah. So she sits there and talks with Tracy, and then it's funny because she's like, the first rule is don't let them know where you are. And Mal comes through loud as fuck, and he's like, I'm right here, motherfuckers! Rolling around, like just yelling, like just making so much ruckus. And she's like, yep.
I think that's me and you, but reversed. Like, you're like that.
So yeah, that's mainly that scene. It's just an introduction to like who Tracy is, and how they know him and why they have like sentimental like relationship
Right.
and stuff like with
There is
him.
something significant about that scene though, because Tracy's going on about how, you know, he doesn't really want to die on this rock, it's not worth it, blah blah blah, and you know, kind of afraid of the bullet thing. And Mal says, you know, there's always there's a bullet. Your name
Someone's
on it
always
somewhere.
carrying a bullet for you.
Right. You just got to know how long you can outlive it, or how long you can outlive it.
Right. So then it cuts back to like current day where they're still standing around the box, and Zoe and Mal they're trying to figure out why they got sent Tracy's body. And while they're trying to like sorry, I'm like trying to read my handwriting. They're trying to figure out why they got sent his body. And while like in the background, kind of the mailman's like, you gotta get this body the fuck out of here. Like it's illegal for me to, you know, this to be sent in the mail.
You can't transport bodies through the USPS.
Right.
ABS.
He's like, you guys need to get it out of here before like we're caught, right?
Which I would have been like, nah, that's your problem now, bro. I'm not taking the dead body.
River walked by Simon and was like, you're such a boob. And I was like, that's hilarious.
But the part about it that was so funny is she said a full sentence that made sense with the context of what was going on.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It's coming out.
Because right before it, I think Kaylee and Simon were standing beside each other, and Simon made a comment at Kaylee again, and she just like looked at him and walked away. And then River came through and was like, you're such a boob.
Right, yeah.
Like, you suck. So now we cut to everybody being in the Firefly with the body in like the Bay Area. And Zoe finds a recorder in Tracy's hands, and they all listen to it, and they're all like, it's very emotional.
Yeah.
Like, as they're listening to this recording.
Stoic. Yeah, for sure.
Very somber.
Yeah. They all sit and listen to the recording, and right at the end of it, Wash turns and like goes to leave, and of course, I originally watching it, I was like, is he that bothered by it? Like, well, you know, like what the fuck?
You gotta say what's in the recording. He basically wants to go home.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I trust
Albans or something.
Right. He's pretty much like, I trust you guys out of everybody else to like bring my body back to my parents,
right? So
that I can be with them, whatever.
Yeah,
so yeah,
turn around.
And then as soon as it ends, Wash like immediately turns to like go and take off the stairs, and Mal's like, Wash, and he's like, it will take us 2 days to get there if I put it in right now, right?
Yeah,
and he's like, okay, cool.
Hard burn.
Hard burn, yeah.
And then Mal turns to Inara and is like, hey, this is gonna mess up your schedule, and she's like, it's fine.
And for some reason, after all of that was done, and he went over to her to say that, and she was like, quick to be like, it's fine. It gave me full body chills for some reason.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, this is so nice.
Yeah. That everybody like,
right.
Like in that moment, everybody was on the same page, which I feel like doesn't happen very often. Mm-hmm. And it was without any discussion too. Yeah. It's not like they had to discuss everybody being on the same page. Like everybody felt like the emotion. They understood. They understood the fact that Zoe and Mal and Tracy all had like this war buddy like bond, and was like, all right, we need to take care of this. So then it cuts back to like that space station and these bad guys, obviously.
Bad guy.
I put in bad guys. Does anybody really know who they
are? They worked for the Alliance in some way, but they were rogue.
They were like they were doing shit on their own time.
They're like bad cops.
Bad cops.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Bad cops that work for the Alliance. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
They use their muscle as their Alliance, muscle
to be able to get into wherever, but they're doing shit like under the radar. Like the bad cops of the Alliance walk into the space station. They of course beeline to the mail station to like interrogate the main postal guy there about this body.
So he was in something.
So the main postal guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been in a bunch of stuff too.
He was in Casino.
Oh.
He was cowboy.
Okay. Well, he's been in a million things.
They show up to the postal office to ask where the body is. And of course they're acting all big and bad, threatening this guy and his whole entire life. Like everything that they could do to him pretty much to be like, where's this fucking body? Like, where did it go? Who has it now? And he like really without any hesitation gives it up.
Yeah, he's
like he kind of almost seems like he's not going to, but then he's like flipping through his things. He's like, right here.
Oh,
he goes, oh, Malcolm Reynolds? Perfect. Where's he headed? And he's like, I don't know. Like, set him on fire. They, like, spray him down with gasoline, light a match and everything.
Not smart in space.
About to set him on fire if he tells anybody, like, if he lets Malcolm know that they're on his way or, tips him off, whatever. Or tells anybody that they were even there. He's like, we'll kill you. So they threaten him and they take off. So then it cuts back to the ship. Kaylee is in her, like the engine room where she has a hammock and she's just sitting there listening to the recording.
No.
She's sitting there.
Star Wars.
Oh, this is not where I thought
That's
you
not
were
what I thought it was either.
Really?
No.
Yeah, I thought
This
this
is why I rewatched a part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. So yeah, Kaylee's sitting there listening to the recording. Don't really know why. I guess maybe she's just very sentimental.
Yeah, she's
and like
one of
just
those
feeling
emotional.
Yeah. And Simon is coming down to like probably go talk to her and tell him that he's an idiot. And he realizes that's what she's doing, and he just turns around and walks away.
So, on her little
Hammock?
shelf, I guess, right beside her, there's a Han Solo in carbonite.
I didn't notice.
I didn't either until I read it on like the fun facts.
Oh,
but it's like right there, and I was like, ooh. So I rewatched it. Yeah, it's 100% there.
Interesting.
My Star Wars is later on, and it actually has something to do with like they're doing something, and it made me think of Star Wars.
Next, it cuts to Jane working out in the cargo bay area, and Preacher is there, and he's kind of just standing there, like looking at the casket. Shepherd, whatever. He's the preacher, and Jane makes a comment to him, and he's like, I'm just saying a few words. And then they start talking back and forth, and while they're talking, River walks in, you can see her, and then finally, like, they're talking to each other, and Jane finally realizes that she's there, and she's, like, creepily crawled up on top of the casket, and then eventually just lays down on top of it.
I swore at that point, like, he was going to raise up. Like,
that would have been funny.
I was waiting for it.
I thought she was going to say something profound, like he's not dead, or that's not how he died, or or just whatever. Like there's some secret that we don't know about. But
she could sense it. Yeah, but no, she was just like, I'm comfortable here. Yeah, that's all she really says.
I love dead people.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wrote being fucking weird. Then it cuts to Zoe, Mal, and Inara in the like dining room area, and they're all laughing and talking about like war stories. Obviously, like Mal and Zoe are pretty much telling Inara just different stories about stuff that happened in the war relating to Tracy. And it's so funny. I always think it's funny when they do these scenes because I feel like they're laughing way harder than they really need to.
When they first like they're all like,
yeah. So,
well, I noticed also, like, because they're drinking.
Yes.
And so, like, after these scenes, they're, like, sober.
True.
I'm like, that is not how that would go. But
or they
now would
real,
be stumbling.
Real high tolerance for alcohol, maybe.
Right. But you can clearly see, though, in that scene, though, that they're tipsy, you know.
When something major happens, they sober up quick.
Yeah, I don't know.
When your ship's rocked.
Right. So yeah, they sober up quickly because amongst this conversation, all of a sudden, the Firefly gets hit and they're like, what the fuck? So they take off. To the bridge and of course Wash is up there like, hey, this is what's happening, you know? And I guess he can see that they're being followed by like another ship that's shooting at them. And then the main bad guy pops up on like their little intercom. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Who knows them, right? He pops up on like their little intercom screen thing, which I think is interesting that they can just like remote into that. Yeah, like I guess within
the guy could have just been like buzz, but no, let me shoot you first.
Right.
Yeah, he could have easily
to like get your attention. I mean, I guess you might as well to like let them know that they're definitely a threat. But I think it's funny that they can just pop in without like. We don't have to accept the call. They just pop in.
I can see anything you're doing.
Yeah, whenever I want it. It's just weird. So he's there to be like, hey, that body you have, I need to have that, right? Mm-hmm. So then, of course, Mal's trying to stall him in some way or another. He gets off the call with him, tells Wash something. I can't remember exactly what he said.
He told Wash to keep him preoccupied.
Yeah, pretty much. While he's like,
cargo might have gotten mixed up. I'll go check on it.
Right. Yeah, so then a few of them take off back down to see if there's something else in the box besides the body. Because it's like maybe it's something they missed, right? That's like hidden in the box somewhere. And in this moment, this is when I said something to you about how I really want to make a comment right now. And he was like, no, don't say it. Because in this moment, I said, right before he said it too, I said, something's going to come up where when Simon said something originally about doing an autopsy on him and Kaylee, of course, made a comment back, I was like, he's going to want to do an autopsy because I bet you there's something in that body. And then right after that happened, Mal was like, you're going to have to do an autopsy. And I was like, yes, I fucking knew it. So anyways, they take the body then into the medical area. Just Mal, Simon, and Jane in there with the body. Simon, begins to prepping the body. And he looks down at it right before he's about to cut. And he's like, oh, somebody's definitely been in here before. He's like, they did a really good job, so it's hard to see, but I can definitely tell somebody's been in here. And so then he goes to cut, and as he goes to cut, he fucking wakes up screaming because he just got sliced into.
We were both like, whoa.
Yeah, we were both like, oh, okay.
I want to point out, just like during that and after, there's no blood at all.
There was a little blood.
There was.
There was the line.
Right.
Yeah, and then there was some blood around it, but then
when he first did it, there was a little blood, but then afterwards he put the thing on it, but there wasn't any blood.
But granted, I will say,
it would
going into the next scene though, with him getting up, so then the next scene, he gets up and of course kind of attacks Simon right away, not really knowing what's going on. Mal takes him down, so you would think that maybe throughout all that movement there would be maybe a little bit more. Mal takes Tracy down. And, once he's pretty much, on top of him, taking him down, whatever, he, looks up at Zoe and, he knows who all they are. Them two, at least. Calls them by what he remembers them as, battle buddy terms, whatever. Right?
That's because Mal is, straddling him on top of him.
Right.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah. And he's like, hey, I'm naked. So he finally, they let him get back up. He gets on the table and he's like, yeah, I took drugs to, be dead. Kind of the same thing.
For a week.
Yeah, for a week. Yeah. Which Simon asked him about, what did he take and everything like that. Because I guess it's probably similar to whatever he gave him and River when they,
probably
went into the alliance thing or whatever.
Yeah, I think so.
Mal asked him why, why did you do this? And, he says something about, his insides. And about how he hints
the
towards,
organs are growing.
Right.
He's like an incubator.
Enhanced.
Right. He kind of says something about it, and then as he's doing that, Simon's still checking his vitals, and he's like, whoa, we have a problem. He's in cardiac arrest. And he's like, no, I'm actually not. I'm totally fine. And it's funny because in this moment, I thought about the beginning scene and then looking at that cow fetus, and I was like, does he have animal organs in him and their hearts beat at a different rate, and that's why it seems like he's in cardiac arrest?
Pretty clever.
Just saying.
They said that all of his organs were going to be weird.
So yeah, I thought about that. I don't know if that's really what it was. It could just be complete human organs.
I would think it would be human organs, because why would they need to harvest animal organs?
Well, what if they're testing it to see if you could put it in a human and it'd be okay? I don't know, whatever.
Maybe.
It just made me think of it because I'm like, why have that one scene where they're looking at that fetus?
Maybe. Didn't he say they were growing the organs?
He's like a surrogate, more or less.
So the organs themselves, they're growing them. They're not from somebody else. They're growing.
Right, they're genetic. Yeah. And he's the carrier.
He said he was the incubator, basically. They were doing whatever.
So he pretty much just says that his innards got scooped out and replaced. And Kaylee is very much admiring him.
Yeah.
During this conversation. Because this is when they leave that area and they're all sitting on the couch, and I think Inara and Kaylee are there. Mm-hmm. He's there, and every time he says something, Kaylee's all like, oh my god, and admiring, kind of almost
Well, when she walked down into the med bay and he saw her, she saw him, there was an instant
there was
something
there. Yeah.
More so than her and Simon.
Kaylee, I forget until the other episode when the mechanic was fucking her. Kaylee might be kind of promiscuous.
Well,
just an innocent personality.
She's very innocent in a way, and almost she's very hopeless romantic. But at the same time, it goes back to her in that opening scene with Simon, and she's like, "Hey, we got 5 minutes. Let's go." We can do it.
But at the same time, James and I were also both surprised that it was Kaylee that he was fucking by the engine back in that
episode, just because
it was just it doesn't seem like her personality,
right?
But she enjoys a good time,
right?
But she's so innocent, and naive-ish coming, the way she is,
But she gets jiggy with it,
Sure. Yeah.
So they're pretty much just sitting there talking about, and he's explaining, why these guys are after Mal now because what is inside of him they want, right? Because it has something to do with whatever the fuck the Alliance or whatever is doing. So the Firefly continues to get shot at, and Mal tells, like, rings back to the guy and is like, all right, if you want to go ahead and meet, we need to land these ships and meet that way, like, because you fucked up my you fucked up the way that we could do it, like, in the air, so we need to land in order, which is really just Mal's tactic of maybe trying to get away from them and hide in some way.
Right. So the guy's like, okay, fine, we'll do it that way.
Right, and then Mal then tells everybody, like, you know, go sit down and hang on tight to something, because we're about to fucking Star Wars through these fucking... This is the part that I thought of Star Wars. This is why I thought you were going to bring up Star Wars.
Which part?
This part when they're
going through... When they go down to the canyon and they're going... That reminded me of Star Wars.
Yeah, like during the races?
Yeah.
The pod races?
And hell, even in the original Star Wars, when
Luke Skywalker is going through the
it's like just going through all that stuff.
This shows how much y'all don't know Star Wars. The Death Star was a straight line.
Yeah, but they do have the races.
They have the pod races, but it was in a desert planet.
It still reminds me.
Nothing close to ice.
But it still reminds me.
And the engines are in the front.
It has nothing to do with the ice. It has just to do with being in a tight space and going through and da-da-da-da-da. You don't have to be the know-all-be-all to Star Wars. We can have Star Wars thoughts.
Fake fans.
If it's not 100% identical to, it's not related at all. No, and then there's that one guy that's been in a million fucking shows, but fuck him because I haven't seen any of them and I don't care. Except for I'm a really big fan of 24.
He can do whatever
but he wants. I didn't see him in 11 episodes.
There is one Star Wars expert, and that's me. And I think you're missing on a few things.
It doesn't have to be exactly the same. It just had a resemblance to Star Wars. But anyway.
I suppose. They're going through a small canyon.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're in spaceships, like, shooting at each other. Whatever.
So, anyway. But the plan was that they were down there and they thought they were going to follow them and they could lose them.
Right, exactly.
But they were smarter than them.
So, yeah. So anyways,
also,
before
racers can't go above the...
Oh my god, whatever, be quiet. Okay. So before we get to that, Kaylee and Tracy end up, like, in Kaylee's room together, right? To, you know, to, like, lay low while they're going through all this bumpiness, right? Of course, they're, like, very close together and all whatever, and they're, like, super flirty talking about all this stuff. And I think it's funny, I didn't write it down, but Tracy makes a comment about, like, something about, like, if something was to happen to Kaylee or something, like, he wouldn't like that.
He'd feel really bad.
And I'm like, you just met.
I know.
Calm down.
It was a bit much.
Like, I'm like, all right, red flag.
I'd feel real bad, miss. Something bad happened to you.
Yeah, he's known her for all the
time. Wait in your
But that's like that Western thing.
Hey,
like,
girl, and go fix
listen here, little missy, go back in the damn cabin and ain't nothing bad happened to you. That's how it was. It's the Western part. I feel that.
But none of them talk like that.
Of course he didn't talk like that. It would have been way better if they did. But it's the whole, like, macho man, like, I'd have felt real bad if something bad happened to you there, little missy.
Right.
And then go and get.
Go and get. Anyways.
I think it's just they're playing on that Western part.
Sure.
And the dude, well, I don't know. Either way.
I got you. I understand what you're saying. So while that's happening, the shepherd's also, like, looking at this one screen, and he realizes that, like, they're not far from, like, an alliance base or something, or some sort of alliance thing.
Right.
And Zoe's like, what are you noticing? He's like, well, we're close to this, and they haven't sent out a signal to them to be like, hey,
we need backup,
come and help us out. He's like, so he realizes there's something fishy going on,
because,
right?
You know, chefs.
Well, he knows a lot, but I feel like he's being a bitch. Or he's playing it up for what they're going to do.
Well, we'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
Right.
But for now, he's a bitch.
Why is he a bitch?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
For what he suggests to Mal.
Later.
But you know what he suggested.
Yeah, he's suggesting for a reason.
Yeah.
He's doing that for a reason because of whatever weird power something
leverage.
that he's got going. Yeah.
He used that information for leverage. You must have missed that part.
Yeah.
You must have misunderstood
Maybe
it.
so.
Okay.
Makes sense. Anyways.
Okay. Keep on with your pod race. Let me know how.
Fight's gonna break out.
So, anyways, Wash finally like brings the ship down to a smaller, more intricate area that he thinks that they won't be able to get to. So he's like, "Sweet, this is how we'll get away from them." And as he's going through, he's like, "Yeah, I think we're good. Like, whatever." And then like they both look up, which I'm like,
Yo, I thought that was the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
but they looked up and like saw that.
Like, yo, we'll lose him here, and it's like a completely open canyon.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
So they look up and they're just
shit.
following them from
Well, that's
way up
because
high.
they were expecting them to follow them into the canyon, and then they
Would
get
lose
tighter,
them.
and they lose them, and then all of a sudden they get shot at, and they're like, "What the hell?" And they realize they were smart
They're
enough;
still
they're way up here, and they can
just
they're
still see
shooting
them.
down at
Yeah.
them.
Like,
So it didn't work. Yeah.
Right.
that was
So then
silly
finally,
to watch.
the Firefly lands in like a small little area.
Canyon or something like this in a cave.
A crevasse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the other ship starts like setting off
Yeah.
like these separate explosions that are just kind of like
Shaking everything.
going down the line of like the canyon because like they're like at some point it's gonna hit them, right? And that's kind
I
of what
think
they're
that's
trying to
something
do.
electromagnetic, because they were saying how like it would shut off the whole
Yeah, they shut all the
ship
power off.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they said.
So it was like Jango Fett when he was dropping the bombs in space.
Yeah, because basically
I don't
they were
know.
like,
Was it the same kind of atmosphere? Was it icy and sandy,
It was
or was
pretty-
it sandy and
It was
sandy?
pretty crisp, man.
Desert? No. Probably
Why don't
not.
you look into it and get back to me?
Anyways.
You know, basically, they turned their power off, and they were hoping they couldn't be detected from any electromagnetic whatever. And so they just started shooting wherever. So they figured they'll
eventually get to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at some point in here, River and Simon pop up, and River's like counting, same as like if you count like lightning and thunder kind of thing, just to see
Right.
how far away it is.
She said that. She's like,
Yeah, she makes a reference to it.
which was fucking useless in the end of the day.
Well, yeah,
I mean, it's just
River.
River being
You know this,
right. It's just River being River. She's just trying to
She
figure
only
shit
had
out.
one coherent sentence an episode.
Right.
The first episode of the second season, I would have killed her off.
Yeah.
Totally new pathway of the show.
Have you seen the picture, like the cover picture for the movie Serenity?
She's on there.
No, she's all badass on there with weapons and shit. Yeah, she's totally fucking badass. I'm like,
no.
oh, she turns into something. Whatever's
Well,
coming.
that's going to be the finale.
Yeah, whatever. You should remember. No, but you don't remember.
I have no idea what happens in that movie.
Anyways,
It's going to be a whole new perspective, though. I'm very excited.
yeah.
You know the backstory.
Yeah, now that you've watched this show.
Yeah, now I'm super stoked.
So while this is happening, Tracy leaves Kaylee's room. She's like, you shouldn't do that. Like, he said to stay here. He's like, I'm just going to go check out, see what's going on. So then he goes back up to the bridge where everybody is. And this is when the preacher stands up to Mal and is like, we need to just let them board.
Right.
And this is him knowing that he has the upper hand because he knows this information now.
Right.
And he's going to use that to the advantage of getting them the
You
fuck
should
off their ass.
disclose that.
Well, no,
You don't.
that's the
If
whole
you
point.
know how to use context clues, you would figure it out.
But the point is, if for most people, like most viewers, probably aren't realizing, they're thinking, oh, Shepard's just saying, okay, let's just give up, let them board.
Right.
But if you
If
like
you
were
put-
paying attention and you see that he's picked up on all this information, like, hey, why isn't he calling? I mean, they don't come out and tell you because they don't really want the viewer to realize it
Right.
completely
Low
until it
suspense.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't fully pick up on it until it happened. And I
Until
was
it,
like, oh,
like-
yeah, okay.
and then it all
definitely
made
got
sense.
me,
You
'cause
kind
I
of
was
like put it all
oh,
together.
you're being a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you should have known later that it
Once
all.
it happened, you could have put it together.
Yeah. Anyway, so at the end of this scene,
So,
Tracy's standing like in the doorway area, and he looks over while they're all kind of discussing this, and he looks over at like the table where all the guns are laid out. And of course, I knew too at this moment that like this guy's fishy, right?
yeah, that was, it's as soon as I saw that, I was like, this motherfucker.
Right. He's gonna pull some shit.
Right.
So, anyways, Mal then tells Wash to go ahead and call them and say, "Hey, meet us here. We'll go ahead and you can board, do whatever you want, kind of thing." And that's when Tracy pulls out the gun and immediately points it at Wash and is like, "No, don't fucking do that. No, thank you." I think he said that a lot. He was like, "No, thank you,"
Yeah.
like because he's like nervous, but like
Which is also polite.
right.
Like, I appreciate
Well, he's got like, no. He knows Mal and Zoe. He knows Zoe even. Like,
right.
He should know better.
Not only that, but he's in a room of him versus all of them.
Right.
So it's like, it's one versus what? It's
you get
4 or 5
off
people?
And that's it.
Yeah, you might get one shot off and then Zoe's grabbing a gun or she's already got a gun on her and you don't even know it, right? So I thought that was kind of funny. But, so yeah, he pulls a gun on everybody to be like, don't, I don't want to give my body back to these people kind of thing, whatever. Don't do this to me, kind of going through like the whole thing. And Mal's like, no, call them. And he's like, no, don't. And Mal's like, Wash, call them. And then Wash goes to do it. And then he doesn't shoot Wash. He, I guess, shoots the intercom thing.
Yeah, he shoot
kind of like, but I think and Wash kind of gets a ricochet off of it kind of thing.
Yeah. Which ballsy of him, because me being Wash, I'd be like, no, he's pointing a gun at me.
Right, yeah.
I'm actually not going to do that.
But I'm sure Wash also knows, I've got 2 people who are really good with guns.
Yeah, but he's like, I got Mal and my wife, who's a bad bitch. You know, like he's...
And was Jane in there?
Yeah.
Was he?
I think he was.
I remember.
Was he wearing the hat?
No, he wore the hat the whole episode.
Oh, I forgot to bring up the thing about the hat.
But no, I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure it was Zoe, Mal, Wash, the Shepherd, and Jane. I think they were all in there.
Okay, once this is over and said and done, I have a thing to talk about the hat. Because there's a scene back in the
Tell us now.
Well, no.
It's fine. We're almost there.
Yeah.
So anyways, he then, I can't remember what, did he just like take off?
He ran away with Kaylee.
No, he goes to turn around and like Kaylee's coming up out of her room.
Yeah.
And Mal's like,
Kaylee,
get, and he grabs her and like to pretty much hold her for hostage.
Zoe shot him, and then he took. Can we say that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. So because he shot at Wash, then Zoe, being who she is, right? She did shoot him, and then he took off.
I'm surprised he laughed. He got shot right in the chest.
Right.
He didn't end up with a collapsed lung.
He has enhanced organs and stuff. Remember?
I don't know if they're enhanced necessarily.
That's what they are. That's why he's transporting them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because they're like better. That's why his heart is so crazy. They think he's having a heart attack. It's like, no, it's just.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they were enhanced.
Yeah, they're like farm grown, like diesel fuel and cornbread motherfucker. He's walking around like boonga boonga.
Right. So anyways, he takes Kaylee and he like takes off to get away from them. And then they all kind of end up in like the cargo bay area where all like the levels and stairs are and everything. And he's on like the one platform, and of course Mal's coming at him and trying to be like, stop, what the fuck are you doing, kind of thing.
Right.
And they're talking back and forth. Mal and him are talking while he's holding Kaylee hostage. Kaylee's like, what the fuck's going on? She like doesn't understand at all what's going on, right? 'Cause she was in her room the whole time.
He wants her to take him off on a shuttle.
Yeah, because she's like, Kaylee, help me get away on the shuttle. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do that with you.
Like, he had a gun right here or something with her.
Yeah, it was...
And I was like...
He was a mess. Right.
Yeah.
And, of course, while Mal's walking in towards him, of course, like, Zoe's coming up from one area, Jane's coming from another area to all kind of, like, zone in on him. And then it eventually gets to the point where, like, he kind of... Jane almost, like, distracts him, cocks his gun, so then he looks over, and then as soon as he looks over, Mal shoots him again.
Right.
So that's when he falls down. Kaylee immediately, like, Jane, like, pulls her away, I think, and gets her away from him. And that's pretty much that, and then that's when the bad guys then come onto the ship.
Right.
So the bad guys come onto the ship, they enter, and everybody's kind of, like, standing around the sides.
I like how Mal's standing with he's just like leaning
like
casually
right
on the thing, and his gun's like this, but it's like so casual.
Right. And I think also like Zoe maybe like
they're all
kind of like made noise with their gun too, just to like let them know like, hey, we're all here, but in different spots, kind of thing. Because they're like looking up, looking over here, there's somebody in every corner with a gun, right? And then all of a sudden, Shepherd walks out in front of them and like super badass, like to the point.
I don't think
was
you
like,
do this, buddy.
Yeah, he was like, I know what you guys are about.
Yeah,
we passed an alliance like
You could have come
base.
back in.
Why didn't you call for backup? What are you guys doing? I know what you guys are doing.
You're out of your jurisdiction by
you're
7 districts or something.
Oh, maybe, districts.
Right. And he's like, I think it would just be better if you guys leave.
He's like, I'm pretty sure no one would care if we buried you, like, in the sands of whatever.
Right.
But here's my thing, and this I did not like. Because they have, like, so we're doing this, like, flight pursuit that whole time, right? Mm-hmm. And they're dropping bombs or doing whatever. So they just let these fuckers leave as if they're not just going to go, whink, bum, 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 and just unload from their spaceship.
Well, it's like Mal said, if you blow up our ship, because the guy threatened to do that, and Mal said, yeah, but you'll destroy your cargo.
Right.
I'd do it out of spite. Fuck them.
Well, they were really...
They pissed me off.
But those guys were... Oh, you mean the Firefly blow... The Firefly doesn't have any weapons, that's right.
Yeah, I'm talking about if I'm the bad guy.
Bad guy.
And they let me walk out. And I'm pissed. And I'm like, I didn't get my shit.
Oh, when they left.
Fuck them. Boom,
right.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
We're like, what's stopping them from
what's stopping them from doing that?
Just
That's
blowing
true.
up the ship
right,
anyways.
They could have just blown them.
I had no idea why they just let them leave with all the weapons on their ship. And I guess they just flew away like, we didn't get them this time, guys. We'll go get them next time.
That's true.
I'd be like, goo, 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 goo.
Well, that would be the end of the show.
Right. That's true. That would be the end of the show. So,
well,
that'd be
it.
It's
not... It isn't realistic.
Right.
Yeah. It's not realistic.
True. But...
Well, it's just like... Because I was watching this today. It's like my second time, but Weston watched it. And to your point, this is the plan that, you were saying you didn't understand. Because when Shepard came out and said all that stuff, he thought Shepard was being a bitch.
But this was what he knew he was going to take this information.
But this was the plan. And the whole time Weston was like,
it's a bad plan.
No, Weston was like, why didn't you just... It would have saved all of this stuff from happening if you had just told Tracy this was the plan. When he started flipping out in the bridge, why didn't they just say...
Yeah.
This is the plan.
Wouldn't have to shoot this dude.
Right.
Yeah. We've got this information we're going to hold against these guys.
They walk in. Hey, guess what? Bang, bop, boom, bop, bam.
Right.
We're done, and I'm taking their shit off their truck, and I'm gone.
And realistically, because they had the higher ground, they had the better shots. 3 of them against those 3 guys. The fact that Fox wanted them to be lighter... That was light, because in real life, they walked through the doors, boom, 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 boom.
That's what I'm saying.
You killed the bad guys right off the bat.
Especially when you knew they were, so...
I cracked the door, I'm throwing a grenade in here.
Right. No, I'm saying, if they when the bad guys walked in, Val, Zoe, and Jane could have shot them
and just been done, yeah.
Which is what
Especially to Shepard's point of, we could just bury you guys and nobody would care. Why not just take them out,
Right.
Yeah. Because now you're leaving Alliance police officers to go back to the Alliance and say something about it,
Well, they probably aren't going to say anything because they're obviously doing it.
Because they're doing it
on the down low.
Right. So, but still, there's still the possibility.
Right. But of course, none of these things can happen in a show with a script so the show can continue.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And again, it's like, I'm saying, like, I'm spiteful. I would fucking blow their ship up and leave just because.
Right.
Just because they piss me off.
Right. It's just about them being stupid enough to let them walk out without killing them.
Yeah.
They couldn't
Dummies.
Yeah.
Right. So, the ending scene, everybody kind of goes back up to where Tracy is on that landing area. He's there, slowly dying. Mm-hmm. And they kind of have, like, that final, like, war buddy moment.
Right.
Where they kind of talk through it, because he's like, oh, this was, like, the plan all along. Like, why didn't you guys just tell me?
It's a good plan.
Yeah, he's like, it's a good plan, you guys. Yeah, and he like gets it, because of course, like he probably he has some type of trust with them,
right,
from what they've been through in the past, kind of thing. So he admits to them that he was playing them in a way and everything like that.
Which that to me again, let's take away like characters and be real people. I'm grabbing him by his belt and his collar, like. Fuck you, dude.
Right. And they have a whole moment with like the...
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah. They have a whole moment referring back to like the quote or whatever from the beginning war scene thing.
With the bullet.
With the bullet
Yeah.
that you were talking about
that Mal
at
had
the beginning.
bullet
Yes.
with his name on it.
Mal,
Right.
That was actually kind of cool.
Yeah, like that full
Mal
circle
had the
moment.
bullet the whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And
did dig
so they
that.
make a whole reference
And
back
neither
to
of them
that.
knew it, so.
Yeah, that was
But
cool.
he also just wanted to go back to his home and to his parents.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what they end up
Ultimately.
doing. They ultimately bring him back to his family still, like his original request.
You know, they dumped his bitch ass right in the damn crevasse they just rolled through.
Right. And then Kaylee gives like the original recording to the family. They have like a whole moment. Kaylee goes over and grabs Simon's hand
Yeah,
and
suddenly
stands
she's
side by
like-
side with him.
Because her other man's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, fuck.
You're the only other man on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like,
Oh, that's good.
this
We
other
didn't
one
even
just
mention-
died. Fuck. I guess this is all I got.
That's pretty good. I like
Um,
that.
So yeah, and then that's it. And I have one very big comment about this whole episode.
Okay.
Don't know how you guys feel. Completely pointless episode. If you think about it, this episode has nothing to it. There's no anything from before or anything that leads into like really anything else.
Well-
like this whole season could have gone without this episode. It was just a
Like there was
filler.
no connection to any alliance stuff or any
Right.
River and Simon stuff or like anything.
It
But-
wasn't anything that like it didn't lead it. It's not leading into anything else.
Well,
You
we
know.
don't know that.
Well, no,
but-
we do, because it goes back to they knew the show was getting canceled. And they still, this was the last episode filmed
Right.
altogether.
Right.
But I'm saying ultimately we don't know if maybe
Right.
we would run into
But
those guys again, just like we ran into Niska. Like in the train job, technically that kind of doesn't have any place either.
Right.
But Niska's introduced and we
I
run
got
into
you.
Niska
Like
again.
if the second season, like he came back.
But
He
if
could have
you-
come
because
back.
this
We
is
don't know.
But if
one
you
of his
think about
other
it, though,
cameos, because he's not in anything else.
if you think about it, though, you could take this episode and completely throw it out, and it would be
It wouldn't affect
It
anything
wouldn't
else
affect anything
that we
else.
know of.
No storyline.
But it
There's
does,
nothing super
Character
significant.
building.
Well, it does show us again, because when Shepard said all that shit to that guy, I was like, God damn, he knows all this shit.
Yeah,
He's
he
got
does.
some
He has
background.
some type
So,
of
yeah,
power.
there is something there.
There
You know?
is, but it's still
But
at
it's
the same
just a very
time.
small little thing.
Yeah.
That Shepard, it's like, I'm surprised Jane didn't go, dude, how do you know all this shit?
Right.
Again. But continuity error that I forgot to bring up back during this scene, when they first bring the body into the cargo bay and
Mhm.
they lift, they take everything up and they're sitting there talking about it. At one point, Jane takes off that hat.
I thought you meant a mask. I was like, is this Scooby-Doo right now?
He takes the hat off, and because everybody's being somber and whatever, when they're
Yeah.
playing the thing. And then there's another shot just after that where you see Anara and Mal standing next to each other, and Jane's in the background, and he's got the hat on, but he'd taken it off already.
Got you.
I also thought it was funny that straw that was in the hat was staying in that hat almost the whole.
Crazy.
Yeah.
He had like 4 pieces of straw hanging out of him.
Yeah. I think it's just because like the material of it,
Right.
but I
It
think
was
it's
in that,
funny that
it
it
was
just
in that thing
stayed.
that had all the straw. That
Yeah.
thing was in
The package.
Package had all that straw in it. That's going to wrap up our discussion of The Message, an episode that really came out of nowhere with the emotional gut punch. We laughed, we cried, we questioned postal regulations in space. Next up, we're heading into Heart of Gold, and I am feeling a little sad that our Firefly journey is almost over. But it isn't over yet. Do us a favor and keep watching so we don't become a one-season wonder ourselves. See ya.
Bye. Send help.
Yeah.
Bye.